What's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode. I'm your host, Disco, and today we're going to be talking about a possible matchup between Donald Trump and now Nikki Haley, the former governor and former UN ambassador under the Trump administration. Now, on February 14th, 2023, weirdly enough, Valentine's Day. That's a weird date to announce your candidacy. And as stated before, Nikki Haley launches 2024 presidential challenge to Trump. So, Nikki Haley is now officially in the race for the president of the United States. Well, first, the GOP nomination. Now, is this likely? No, she is very likely to lose the race against Donald Trump. Has not been polling very well, and is very much so likely to lose against Donald Trump, and even more so to Ron DeSantis, assuming that he assuming that he runs. But what would? But now like I said, this matchup is very unlikely due to Haley being so unpopular amongst the GOP. Haley winning the nomination would be a long shot and would require a miracle. But on the scale based on the Electoral College, what would happen? Well, what would happen if Nikki Haley went up against Joe Biden? Like I said, very unlikely. But given the state of how things are right now, we could very much so get an idea. Let's get an idea first. But in order to get an idea of how things would turn out against Nikki Haley and current President Joe Biden, we need to look at former governor and former ambassador to the UN of the United States under Trump administration. Nikki Haley went on in past elections. Now, she was the governor of South Carolina, first elected back in 2010. Now, she ran in a year where she should have won easily, honestly. It's 2010, and frankly enough, she just did poorly by Republican standards. Although she is a minority in a Republican Party, so that also might have been an effect because of it's the Republican the Republican Party of now, which is the Trump Party, is very so race has a lot of racism involved, has a lot of sexism involved, a homophobia, transphobia. Basically, if you're not white, and Nikki Haley is not white, she is actually of Indian descent. I think I read it on here. She became yeah, according to NPR, Nikki Haley is running for president and is the hold up. Nikki Haley is running for president as first woman of color for GOP nomination. Uh, a woman of color in the GOP nomination is very rare. We've had women in the past run for president under the GOP. Never as the nomination, but as a candidate, we've had that before. But them getting the nomination is very unlikely, unless they're like this far right radicalism. They have this far right radicalism. But yeah, but if we look back at her elections, we could see that she only won the election by 4 points. That's only because of Republican solid Republicans outpace normal Democrats, even if they get the independent votes. Now, now she did go for a re-election back in 2014, but she only won by 14 points, which is weird in a year that the governorships. I mean, look at the GOP did amazing in here. I mean, they lost one state. They narrowed up in New York. They lost Pennsylvania, but that was actually better. But Colbert lost, obviously. Then winning Illinois, getting closing in like Oregon and Colorado. They also nearly getting Vermont, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. Although also almost losing in a couple of areas, but that's because their certain situations like Kansas being certain policies being unpopular. But Nikki Haley was never really popular amongst South Carolinians. So put that in perspective, how would that pan out into a general election? Well, I'm going to start by saying former Governor Haley. Should I say former governor or former ambassador? Former ambassador, because that's the most recent title. Now I'm going to go with the solid states. That'd be Indiana, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska at large, Nebraska's first congressional district, Nebraska's third congressional district, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, and Utah, along with South Carolina. Yes, I stated there's 122 solid votes for the GOP for GOP candidate Nikki Haley. Now, Joe Biden's solid states would include Maryland's first congressional district, Vermont, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, the District of Columbia, Hawaii, California, Oregon, and Hawaii. Now, there are along with Illinois. My apologies. Now, there's a reason why I'm not saying Colorado is solid due to the fact that Jared Polis did win the election by 19 points. But if you look at the Senate election, who was up for Bennett only won by 14 points, roughly a slightly bigger margin than Joe Biden. But this is a presidential election, so they could be a bit more likely to vote for a Republican candidate, especially someone who is Nikki Haley, who leans yeah, I don't want to say more moderate. I don't want to say more moderate. Who leans more traditional Republican? Although she does, although reading in the news lately, she has gone to a bit more of a Ron DeSantis type person. So the VP ticket could be very much so. She could have chose DeSantis easily, and therefore the election would have changed immensely, getting hard right Republicans and more moderate Republicans that tend to be scared. But anyways, back on track. What would be next? I got to look at my notes. Okay, so likely Republican states are going to be a tradition. Ohio, Iowa. I'm not going to say Maine's second congressional district. That it will not be likely. Obviously, Alaska, Texas, and Florida. Right there is 96 electoral votes. These are all swing states. I think all of these would be single digits. Alaska's the only one where it's iffy whether it would be single digits or not. Florida as well. Why not single digits? Well, Florida is the most obvious state. Marco Rubio, 16-point victory. DeSantis, he won his election by 19. The Christie, who is a former governor, couldn't even get over 40% of the vote. So that is sad. And so with this, it's clear that Haley could get it. Former Ambassador Haley could get over 10%, 10 points over there. Texas would be a bit of an if your victory because of how hard voting is. Yeah, it's been increasingly getting harder to vote, but judging by Abbott's poor margin of victory, it wouldn't surprise me if Nikki Haley was able to win by only single digits. Anyways, to likely states for the Democrats, it'd be Maine at large, New Hampshire, Virginia, Colorado, and New Mexico, and along with Minnesota. Now, why these states? New Hampshire is always a swing state, and it's been trending a bit bluer. Although the Republicans hold a government trifecta there, I don't know why. Virginia, even though the past elections haven't been great, Democrats have been showing good signs in more legislative elections. They recently won a House district very narrowly, and that could be a sign saying that oh wait we could flip the both chamber we can flip one of the chambers and gain control of the legislative chamber back. Colorado, New Mexico. Colorado is getting bluer and bluer, and it will soon be solid for Democrats. I just don't think it'll be right now. Not in this election where Nikki Haley could possibly pick up a bit more moderate Republicans. New Mexico, even though it is a rural state and it is trending more Republican, and I could see it flipping within the next 3 election cycles, it becoming a swing state. Although it first has to lose a vote, I say it'll be 4 electoral votes before it'll actually become a swing state. So yeah, that's my view. That's what I think. Lean states, it'll be Maine's second congressional district. Nikki Haley is no Donald Trump. In the 2020 presidential election, Trump won the district by 7 points, and then again he won the second congressional district in 2016 by over 10 points, and then won it again by only 7 points. I'm sorry. I'm holding the mic by my hand with my hand, um and it's slipping. I'm sorry. Here, let me do this. I'm sorry. I'm deeply sorry. This should not be happening, right? This should not be happening. I am deeply sorry. This should not be happening. So, now we got a bit more of now I got a free hand. Yay! All right. So how we do this? Hold on, give me a second. And we're back. Sorry about that. It was a sorry. I had a yeah. There was a score. There was a beaver that was attacking me. My deepest apologies. That's a lie. Anyways, where was I? Yes, talking about Nikki Haley versus Joe Biden. So, what would happen? Hmm. So, what about lean states? Oh, there's only two. Yeah, obviously there's Maine's second congressional district. I already explained why. North Carolina, it is moving to the left. No matter what people say, it's not always going to be Republican. It's going to turn on the Republicans. Now, a basic history lesson would be North Carolina going to Bush by only 12 points, 12.8. Then again by 12.4, but it already showed signs that that was going to flip because it moved a bit. And you can see it by popular vote percentage, even though Bush increased his vote percentage. Uh, Obama flipped it back in. Give me a second. I had an itch in my ear. Obama flipped it in 2008 with his landslide victory. Um, but then Romney won it by only 2 points. Trump won it by 3 points, 3 point, nearly four, and he won it again by 1.3. But it's showing signs. I mean, you look by county map. Take that county, and then 11 points. That county went farther to the yeah. If you look at the counties that are in this weird ziggy like this has stripes on it, you'll notice that those are the counties that flipped. So say like let's look at 2004. This was 2004. This is 2008. You see a lot of more of that stripe. Then you see more of those because of the Republican landslide. Then you see more of it due to Donald Trump's interference. And then you come into here and you see a mix of both, but Biden winning more. But I've been going on for too long. But look at the Senate results back in 2020, 2022. The incumbent Republican declined to run for reelection. And yet in a year that Republicans should have won it in a landslide, probably by over probably by over 8 points. They won it only by 3.2, and it's clear that they're losing support in it. Support in that in North Carolina, they barely are holding on to a veto-proof majority in it with a Democratic governor in their congressional districts. If we look at the CNN results, this is all I got. My CNN results. You look the I mean, like, let's look at past election results, honestly. So it's a 50-50 state, and yet Republicans only hold it. Let's go to 2022 and see reason why. So Republicans won a majority of the vote only by like 4 points, a tad under 4 points, but it's not enough to. But based off the margins of these seats, it's not enough to really say that was a this was a rigged election for the Republicans or for the Democrats. It's not enough to say. So and there's a bunch of traditional Republicans in there, so that would be much more lenient for Haley if she could appeal to those voters. Now, to get back on topic and to be a bit more productive, I'm gonna go for the final state, and that would be Georgia. I know people in the comments are gonna say it's gonna go for Biden. It's gonna go for Biden. Actually, it wouldn't. Based off recent election results, yes, it is showing signs that is going towards the Democrats. Past election results. I mean, if we look at, let's go for an accurate reading. 2000 versus 2020. Which states have shifted to the left? Biden went. It's gone. Georgia has gone more to the left than a lot of these other nations. Not other nations. My God, when did the partisan divide happen? Honestly, but you can see where the increase in Democratic support is, uh, mainly in the South, the Sun Belt, Alaska, weirdly enough, Utah, weirdly enough. this area of the country, the West and New England, with the exception of Rhode Island, and you can see increased and decreased support for them. But it's very prominent in Georgia. But Democrats still have a heavy bat. They still have a steep hill to climb when it comes to winning in Georgia. I mean, Trump won it by 5 points in 2016, but yet yes, Joe Biden won the election back in 2020, and yes, Raphael Warnock did win the Senate election by just about 3 points in the runoff, and yeah, it is showing signs that it is trending bluer. But there's more. But if you appeal to moderates, which Haley would most likely do, it would be an unwise strategy to not. Therefore, it it will flip from Democrats winning it in 2020 to Haley winning it in 2024. Onto some lean states. Arizona. I know I said traditional Republicans, but Haley. I know I said that traditional Republicans would like flip states, but Arizona is not going to be one of them. Kelly, who is a more moderate, and we've actually seen this actually be attempted in Arizona. Kelly, who is a moderate and who is a bit more a bit more centrist than Biden is, and Masters, who was trying to appeal appeal as a moderate in a state where he even broke his own abortion ideals to win over voters, and it still didn't work. Kelly still won. We saw in the governor's race. I mean, this isn't a great example. I just realized that because let's be clear, Lake was an extreme candidate. Sorry, Lake was an extreme candidate, but Hobbs was a moderate, so it could, yeah. But moderates would you generally win over. I think with Arizona's trend towards the left, it will increase voter. It will flip. It will stay for the Democrats. And since if you look at like past uh, here, let me pull up the legislative elections here because Republicans don't have an entire have the entire legislative chamber with them because here. Oh, I have it up here right now. In Arizona, they only have a in Arizona in the state Senate. It takes 2 seats for the Democrats to flip, and they're done for. And the same thing here for the state House of Representatives: 2 seats, and they're done. Arizona, Katie Hobbs can still pass more voter rights legislation in there if she can just get 2 Republicans to vote with her, therefore having to compromise. But that it seems very doable, and her job will be very strenuous and will be very fine print. And if with that legislation, that will cause Arizona to flip. On to our next state. I'm gonna say the state of Wisconsin stays with current President Joe Biden, incumbent President Joe Biden. Why? Pennsylvania recently just got another Democratic senator in a year where Oz should have won pretty handedly, or in a worst case scenario, win narrowly. I projected Oz to win very narrowly by a tilt margin, and yet Fetterman nearly won by 5 points. Yeah, and they rejected extremism when Doug Mastriano lost against Shapiro, not Ben Shapiro. That would be very weird. And in the House of Representative elections, they Democrats now actually have a majority. They hold a majority in the House districts, and they hold a chamber. They flipped a chamber in 2022. Like here, Wikipedia does a really good job. They flipped the lower house of Pennsylvania, and they were able to keep the 7th congressional district and the 8th congressional district. They were able to hold on to the 17th. Excuse me, 17th uh, congressional district. While Republicans were still able to hold the 1st congressional district and the 10th congressional district, they were not able to hold on to it very with a very big margin. Pretty much, Fritz Patrick Fitzpatrick, only, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, only won the district by 9.7 points. That's the same victory as he did in 2020. Uh, Perry, very similar, 7 points. He won it, I think, by 6 points in 2020. What I'm trying to say is that Democrats could still have a chance in Pennsylvania. I'm going to name another state, Michigan, and with this, President Joe Biden has crossed the 270 mark, and therefore he will be the next. He will continue being the 46th president of the United States. Why Michigan? Michigan is still, like with Pennsylvania, it has a Democratic House, and both chambers flipped during 2022 when it's finally their districts were drawn well, they weren't drawn in their favor. They were drawn in a more independent favor. Um, if we look at past elections, it did go for Biden by 2.8, by about almost 3 points, and pretty big. But it has shown to go for Democrats in general. Whitmer won her seat by 10.5 points, and she also won it again. She won it back in 2018 by a similar margin. But in the Senate, we do have a history of electing Democrats. The only time where I could see it was really competitive was Peters against John James. We know how that handled out. But in a blue wave year, Stabenow also won. She's not running for election, so that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Wisconsin will also go to the Democrats and will also go to Joe Biden. Tony Evers would most likely have a huge say in it. Say in this election, he would have to decide whether it be Joe Biden or Nikki Haley. He would most likely go for Joe Biden. I think he endorsed Joe Biden in the last presidential election. I do not know, but if Evers does enter the campaign as a supporter of one of the two, his voice will be very crucial. Nebraska's second congressional district will go to Joe Biden by a lean margin. Not as big as his first victory due to Trump's not going to be on the ballot. Although he probably will have a huge say in the election, but he might not have a bit much of a big of a say in this election. He might. I want to say he might learn from his mistake in 2022, but it's Trump, so I'm going to assume no. Last time this happened, we know this didn't go so well. So Biden's going to win it again, just not as big of a margin as last time. Now, Nevada's the hard one. I think it will go to Biden by a tilt margin. It could go lean for either Haley or Biden, but there's still an element of iffiness, I might say. This is very unformal of me, but there's still a level of iffiness for me because Nevada is shown to go a bit farther to the right. It was one of the few swing state. It was the only swing state to go more for Donald Trump than any other state. But Ohio is weirder because of county by county and how things went. But yeah, but Nevada is trending towards the right, and in a no wave year, they were still able to elect a Democrat, Cortez Masto, and for the governor, they did elect a Republican, only narrowly. So this does have so Democrats still have a chance, and with Haley being a moderate, but yet again, Democrats could get their shit together and uh, could reach out to Hispanics. But what are the chances both of them are going to get their poop in a group? Not really. So there you have it. Right now, This is my first prediction: Joe Biden against incumbent President Joe Biden versus former governor of South Carolina and former ambassador to the UN under the Trump administration, Nikki Haley. Biden Incumbent President Joe Biden would win 287 electoral votes, and former governor of South Carolina and former ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, would only garner 251, flipping the state of Georgia, therefore making Biden the second president, second Democratic president in a row to win re-election with a lower popular vote and lower electoral vote. And that is from Obama from his 2012 election, and the last time that happened was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to hit that like subscribe button. Check out some more other videos I have in there. Please hit the comment down below. Please comment down below if there's anything you would like to see done better, or anything or any inquiries you'd like to make. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.